Joining us today, the always outspoken Congressman Dennis Kucinich. Thank you so much for speaking with us. I want to talk to you about the state of the economy. Now, the budget deficit is reaching $1 trillion. There's a hike in unemployment. Stocks are being hammered by historically low retail sales. What do you make of all of this?
The United States economy is in deep trouble. It's in deep trouble because we have permitted banks to go unregulated. We have engaged in deep deficit spending for war that was totally unnecessary. War against Iraq should have never been prosecuted. And because we continue to build up our military. We spend over $600 billion a year just for military spending every year. Well, we have people losing their homes, losing their jobs, losing their pensions, losing their retirement security. Their children aren't able to go to the schools that parents want them to go to because they can't afford it. Our whole way of life is changing, and it clearly calls for a totally new approach.
Now, is this as bad as it's going to get, or are we going to look at these numbers a year from now and think, you know, how good things were now? How bad is it going to get?
It's more likely to get worse before it gets better, unless there's some change. What America needs to do is this. We, first of all, need to keep people in their homes. We have to create jobs. There's millions of people out of work in America today. We have to put people back to work, remembering what our President Franklin Roosevelt did many years ago. He created what was called the WPA, Works Progress Administration. We need to do the same thing, putting millions of people back to work, rebuilding our roads, our bridges, our water system, our sewer system, rebuilding our infrastructure. We have to build a new energy infrastructure. We could put millions more people back to work by designing, engineering, manufacturing, installing, and maintaining tens of millions of wind and solar microtechnologies for homes and businesses, lowering our energy costs and reducing our carbon footprint. We also need to stop these wars. We need to get out of Iraq. We need to get out of Afghanistan. We need to stop threatening war against Iran. We need to pull back from this position of empire, of unilateralism, preemption, first strike. We need to work with Russia. Our relationship with Russia is going to be key to the United States recovery. Let me explain how. We need to work with Russia to get rid of nuclear weapons. Now, Mr. Putin wanted to do that many years ago, but he was rejected by Mr. Bush. We need to work with Russia on matters of international security, but do it by cooperating globally. The United States must take a lead in working globally, but with Russia, so that we don't have to have this empire approach. We have to get the missiles out of Poland and the apparatus out of the Czech Republic. We have to stop threatening aggression or positioning ourselves as an aggressor, because we don't want to go back to the days of the Cold War, where both of our countries saw our economies stressed because of all the money that was spent for military buildups. People in the United States and Russia want the same thing. They want jobs. They want a decent place to live. They want to be able to send their kids to good schools. They want to be able to have some security when they can no longer work. They want health care. We have to take care of things at home. Must start focusing on things at home, but cooperate. And cooperation with Russia is very important.
Well, speaking of economic stress and taking care of things at home, you were obviously opposed to the $700 billion bailout, and now we're getting word that some of that money was actually going to the CEOs, who many people say have created the mess in the first place. So how can the American people continue to trust Congress when this is so?
Well, that's right. There is a decline in trust. People are losing their homes, they're losing their jobs, their wages are getting cut if they're keeping their jobs, their benefits are getting cut. And they see this bailout money being used for huge executive pay packages and for bonuses. They're asking, what's going on here? And they have every right to ask that. Our economy is in decline. Our way of life is in trouble. And yet some apparently aren't being troubled by it because they're using their influence with the government to be able to do business as usual.
Well, yeah, they're going on junkets, AIG.
They're holding parties while the house is burning down. This is what I'm speaking to in terms of America must take a new direction. All of the things that I'm talking about relate to the practical aspirations that people have for life, And this is not complicated. But the United States cannot continue to take the path of aggression. You saw the recent reports about now some people are discovering that maybe Georgia was the aggressor. I knew that when it first happened. Anybody could see that. And yet that was used to try to attack Russia, to try to say, well, Russia, again, is the aggressor. It wasn't. There was a smear against Russia. We have to have people in our government who reach out to Russia with a hand of friendship. We can save each country a lot of money, so we don't have to keep building up our arms, as was done when I was a child. The threat of a nuclear exchange was very real. And it was only when we had an understanding of how much we had at stake mutually that we said, wait a minute, we can't be talking about these arms buildup anymore. But look what's happening today. Those missiles that they want to place in Poland. That is wrong.
Well, some experts are saying that now with the new administration that Russia and the U.S. will have time to talk, will have time to work out their differences, because Barack Obama has said that he won't really support something that's not proven.
Well, we got to see, you know, but if people like Mr. Brzezinski, our principal advisors, where he was openly bragging about a role that he played in dragging in a strategic move that baited Russia to go into Afghanistan. We have to stop that kind of politics. We have to deal directly with people, honestly, heart to heart, see what we have in common, which is much that we have in common, and respect Russia. Not play games with it, not condescend, not try to diminish Russia or its leaders, but have mutual respect. If the Obama administration does that, we can make progress.
Whatever decision is made, let's say Bush does make a decision, President-elect Obama is going to have to deal with the repercussions and consequences of that.
Mr. Sarkozy, who put together the summit, certainly he understood that Mr. Bush is going out of office and Mr. Obama will be coming in. So I suppose there'll be a new summit when Mr. Obama comes in. Mr. Bush, unfortunately, is not in a position where anything that he says is going to be relied on by the world community, because everyone knows a new president's coming in. We must be sensitive that he does not become president until, you know, mid-January. When he takes the oath of office, then he can be at these summits in the name of the United States. He can't do that yet.
Even in such a crisis, he can't?
He cannot do that. Now, legally, he can't do it. He doesn't have any legal standing yet. And I think that he'll be watching. Of course he has to watch. But he doesn't have any legal standing. He cannot make a decision that becomes policy. But he will, you know, after January 20th. Well, the world community ought to be talking about what's going on economically. The United States has made some decisions that have implication for the entire world. We have to look at the level of debt that we're gathering. We have to look at our ability to repay people who have loaned money to us. We have to look at our spending patterns that are causing debt to rise, such as war and military buildups. And we have to look at the fact that we haven't had adequate controls over these banks and these energy companies and a number of other corporations. So, you know, the world community is watching the United States because they know that what we do affects everyone, which is why we need to take a new direction to strengthen our economy here, which will help everyone. But we can't do it by letting the same banks that led us down this path make the decisions about how their policies ought to go. This is the mistake that Mr. Paulson made this week by essentially saying, well, we're going to give the money to the banks and they'll make the right choices. No,
a lot of economists agree with that. They say that the way to fix this thing is to put capital into banks to not acquire those troubled mortgage assets, which you have criticized.
Well, let me tell you about that. The economists who agree are on the bank's payroll. Banks are hoarding money. Banks are using money they're getting from the bailout to buy other banks. Banks are helping to continue a credit freeze, which is jeopardizing our steel companies because people can't get credit to buy steel, jeopardizing our automotive companies. People can't get loans to buy cars, so you have a production decrease. Banks are not creating the money that needs to have loan modification, so you keep people in their homes. So you know, we already know that what Mr. Paulson is talking about, it's already failed and it will fail again. And so the economists who say something to the contrary, they've already been proven wrong.